Okay, one last video on Apple Vision Pro, probably. I'll try. But I find it fascinating because it is a area that I'm familiar with. I have some knowledge on, and B, it is a good example of that blind love of tech, and especially when it comes to Apple, because you or I could release the Apple Vision Pro and we would have gotten reamed, but Apple releasing it, they won't, because people have faith in Apple. And now sometimes that's well deserved, right? You come from a company that's delivered on their promises, they've delivered on the future, they've changed, they've updated, they've taken it really far. And so you got to give them some of that. So, but it's interesting to watch as I see a lot of the reviews. Again, I linked last time to the Verge review, which kind of echoed some of my sentiments, that it's a VR headset with really good pass-through. And you see kind of a tepid response to that, I guess, to the whole thing from their point of view, because it's just not that different. And I've realized, I think a lot of the new reviews is something that we saw early with the Vive Pre. So the Vive Pre is the first time that I stopped personally handing out each headset by hand, and instead we had a mechanism where you could get them if you were a developer, and we essentially give them to people we didn't necessarily know. And for a lot of VCs, a lot of VCs in particular, the first time they got a Vive Pro was when someone was pitching them what they were making. Or not a Vive Pro, a Vive Pre was when they were getting pitched. So they would get pitched, hey, we're gonna be the YouTube of VR or whatever, right? And it would be the first time the VCs had seen this headset, and they were amazed, because it was the step from what they'd seen before was probably the DK2 to this was amazing. All of a sudden they had hand tracking, all of a sudden, right? Like they could move through the space. It was incredible. And they would fund projects based on if you were the first person to show them the Vive Pre, because they just thought the experience that was in there was just so like, oh my God, it just overwhelmed them from everything else. And so they weren't able to even with real money, I mean, I'm talking millions of dollars sometimes, they weren't able to separate that from that initial experience. So if you ever see people leaping onto new technology, hey, I kind of get it, because man, you could ride that gravy train. But we're seeing that a little with this. Is I can tell people who first time seeing VR is the Apple Vision Pro, and with that, a little key indicator is if they think the words spatial computing were invented by Apple, or if this is a new thing instead of something that's been around now for a while, that's a good indicator that they're not really versed in this field, that they really haven't experienced VR before, and they are thinking they're experiencing something other than VR when they're experiencing VR with AR pass-through in a really good way, right? Again, it is a super quality headset. It is the best version of this, but it is what it is. But it's also funny as I see a lot of people talking about, well, this is the first one. My God, wait, tomorrow they'll be in contact lenses and it'll be blah, 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 blah. And you ever listen to the whack, what's his face from Magic Leap used to talk? We're going to beam the future into your eyeballs. Oh my God. Yeah. Future of bankruptcy, my friend. But the truth is innovation moves a lot slower. It moves in leaps. And this isn't really a leap as a refinement. I think like we all know this in game companies, right? People would joke like Blizzard's really good at this, of like taking something they've seen somewhere else and refining it and polishing it and releasing it in a really good way that's consumer ready, right? But this is my phone, right? Is this a iPhone 10, 12, 14, 15? I don't even know what number they're up to now. You don't know. Oh my God, what painful reflection thing am I showing here? I think I'm just myself. All right. But right, ends up, the original iPhone was this huge leap, and then we kind of meandered it forward, right? It's about battery, it's about compute, it's about heat. And the same thing with the headset. And Apple puts me in this, again, uncomfortable position where I've got to compliment Meta, but Facebook. I'm calling Twitter and Facebook till I die. How about that? All right, but so Facebook actually has done a really good job of refining the Meta Quest 3. There was some low-hanging fruit, right? Like the first time we showed the Vive, we had wired hand controllers because we didn't have that technology working. We got that technology working. We made them wireless. So like there's easy things like that, right? And so one of the things was getting rid of the need for some other device in the room to scan the room. and understand it, right? And so they got rid of that. They have really smart people there. I worked with some of those people. I hope they're doing well. But they cleaned up the really low-hanging fruit. They compacted it down as much as they could. They made it as light. It's actually lighter than the Vision Pro. But they're also kind of at the end because I'm going to tell you now, the lenses aren't light. But also there's a math formula, right? How much compute do you want on your head? How much heat are you willing to put up with, right? And then also battery life, because how much power is it going to use? And so that's why Apple's even, put the battery off, because they weren't able to put it where the Meta Quest Pro doesn't, right? And so Meta Quest Pro, the Quest, can we just call it the Quest, is also not made for you to walk around the street, right? We've seen a bunch of idiots walking around with their Vision Pros or even driving. Those people are all idiots. We should mock and make fun out of them. And man, if they are actually doing it, like I saw in a video in a Cybertruck, I don't think we can make fun of them anymore. I think they have like, they're too negatives. They've crossed some black hole of being losers that it's not cool. It's just something we can't describe anymore, except just be like, thank God I'm not that. I don't know. But all right, I had to take it negative. All right, but you know what I'm saying about it? It's interesting though. So it'll be interesting to watch how the Vision Pro actually plays out over the coming years, because I think the utility of it, the discovery of it, and the software side of it will innovate. They will find things, right? And that's the same thing with the phone, right? We saw a bunch of innovation on what it actually does, but we didn't see a lot of innovation in what it is. And so, it'll be interesting, because the bet with all of these companies are, if I do something really cool on it with an Apple product, I can see a lot of upside. Now, you saw Netflix and others didn't jump in because the market is so tiny. They're like, yeah, we don't need that. And also maybe because of Apple TV. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting. Or you don't need to, because you can just play your videos anyways on your set-top box and it doesn't make a difference, right? Who knows? But again, I think that's the kind of thing that'll get sorted out. And I really think this is where homebrew, people tearing apart this, people modifying it, people doing strange, weird things, like my friend Sarah, her account Root, does a bunch of really crazy, weird things with tracking, because she puts on more trackers than they think anyone ever would have. And that becomes this kind of cool, weird thing. And so this will be the interesting thing is, what do the homebrews do with this? What do they push on it? But man, any review that you read that is just praising it and talking about, oh my God, this is classic Apple, and next one it's gonna be tiny. No, it's not. It's just not, right? I mean, the watch didn't materially change, the software changed on it, but the physical item, they figured out what it was good for. And I think that's what this is. This is a fishing expedition by Apple. Let's find out what this thing's good for. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to find out what it's good for. And I really want to see some crazy stuff with homebrew that I go, man, that's really cool. I'm still not going to buy one, but that's really cool.